Good morning students, welcome to SST So Simple tutorial. In the previous class, we read about the problems faced by the weavers by the turn of the 19th century. Today, we will start the fourth unit, Factories Come Up. An important development in the second half of the 19th century was the establishment of large-scale machine-based industries in India. The most important of these were the cotton and jute industries. You can see such a list in the slide. Most of these industries were owned or controlled by the British. The first cotton mill was set up in Bombay in 1854. By this time, Bombay had grown as an independent port for the export of raw cotton to England. It was close to the black soil tract of the western India, where cotton was grown, so there was no problem of getting supplies to these mills, isn't it? Mills came up in other cities too. Elgin Mill was started in Kanpur in the 1860s and another cotton mill started in Ahmedabad in 1861. Cotton mills were basically concentrated in Bombay, Ahmedabad and Madras. The first jute mill was set up at Risra by an English George Ackland, but the first jute mill by an Indian was set up in 1917 by Seth Hukumchand. If this question is asked as an MCQ, then you have to be careful while answering. Who set up the industries? Where did the capital come from? The history of many business groups goes back to trade with China. From the late 18th century, the British in India began to export opium to China and import tea from there. Many Indians took active participation in this trade by providing finance, procuring supplies and shipping consignments. Once these businessmen earned enough, they dreamt of developing industrial enterprises in India. Industries were set up by different people in different regions. Let us see them. Jamshedji Jijabhai. He was the son of a Parsi weaver. Like many others of his time, he was involved in the China trade and shipping. He owned a large fleet ships, but competition from American and English shippers forced him to sell his ships by the 1850s. Dwarkanath Tagore. He was among the pioneers to begin industries in the 1830s and 1840s. He made his fortunes in the China trade before he turned to industrial investment, setting up 6 joint stock companies in the 1830s and 1840s. He believed that India would develop through westernization and industrialization. He invested in shipping, shipbuilding, mining, banking, plantations and insurance. Jamshedji Nusserwanji Tata. J.N. Tata set up the first iron and steel works in India at Jamshedpur. Iron and steel industries in India started much later than textiles. In colonial India, Indian machinery, railways and locomotives were mostly imported. So capital good industries could not develop in any significant way till independence. Dinshaw Petit. Dinshaw Petit was a Parsi entrepreneur. As broker to European firms, he amassed a large fortune during the period of speculation in Bombay at the time of American Civil War. He founded the Manekji Petit Spinning and Weaving Mill. Seth Hukumchand. He was a Marwari businessman. He had set up the first Indian jute mill in Calcutta in 1917. Now, besides this China route, there were other trade networks. Some merchants traded with Burma, today's Myanmar, while others traded with the Middle East and East Africa. There were some other commercial groups who were not directly involved in external trade. They operated within the country. They carried goods from one place to another. They used to finance the traders, and when opportunities opened up, many of them set up industries. Till the First World War, European managing agencies dominated industrial production in India. Just remember what you read in the lesson first, in the lesson Forest Society and Colonialism last year. The colonial government took over the forests and gave vast areas to European planters at cheap rates for tea, coffee, and rubber plantations. At some other places, you read that the British government gave many large European trading firms the sole right to trade in the products of particular areas. So, when we read about trading firms, we meant these European managing agencies only. Important among them were Bird, Higglers and Company, Andrew Yule, and Jardine, Skinners and Company. Till the First World War, these agencies controlled a large sector of Indian industries. These agencies mobilized capital, set up joint stock companies and managed them. In most instances, Indian financiers provided the capital while the European agencies made all investment and business decisions. Students, factories need workers. With the expansion of factories in India, this demand increased. So now let us see, where did the workers come from? In most industrial regions, workers came from the districts around. Those peasants who found no work in the village went to the industrial centers in search of work. In 1911, more than half the workers in Bombay cotton industries came from the district of Ratnagiri. In Kanpur cotton mills, most of the workers came from the villages within the district of Kanpur. Most of them returned to their villages during the harvests and festivals. When the news of employment spread, workers even traveled long distances in the hope of getting jobs. For example, from the United Province, that is today's UP, they went to work in the textile mills of Bombay and in jute mills of Calcutta. But getting job was not easy. Even though the mills were increasing in number and the demand for workers increasing, yet the number of job seekers were more than the jobs. Industrialists used to employ a jobber. A jobber used to get them new recruits. He got people from his village, ensured them job and helped them settle in cities. He also helped them during crises, like providing money when required. Thus, the jobber became a person with some authority and power in course of time. You can see a head jobber. Notice how the position and clothes emphasize the jobber's position of authority. He began demanding gifts and money for his favor and controlling the lives of workers. You can see source E. Vasant Parker, who was once a mill worker in Bombay, said the workers would pay the jobbers money to get their sons work in the mill. The mill worker was closely associated with his village, physically and emotionally. He would go home to cut the harvest and for sowing. The Konkani would go home to cut the paddy and the ghati, the sugar cane. It was an accepted practice for which the mills granted leave. With this, we finish the topic planned for the day. I hope you have understood the topic. Now let us see the question part. You try to learn by heart the factories that were set up and the year they were set up. They may be asked as 1-mark question. Where did the capital for promoting industrialization come from? Where did the workers for the new factories come from? Who were jobbers? What was their position in the new factory system? In the next lesson, we will discuss Unit 5, the peculiarities of industrial growth. Till then, keep reading and have a nice time. Thank you.